to Onesies, a podcast of onesies and wonders and blunders. My name's Andrew,
My name's Emily.
and we are back discussing 1995's Dweebs, a CBS sitcom that did not even make it to 13 episodes. So we are quickly approaching the finish here. We are on episode 7 or 8. What are we on? 8?
8.
But we don't really know what episode number it is because Wikipedia's order is different from some other orders. So it's fine. We watched the Carl's
Carl's
old
Crisis.
episode. Oh, Carl's Crisis.
Yes. He's having a midlife crisis, apparently.
Yes, apparently so, because he is older than the other gentleman that he works with.
Because he's old, period.
Now, let's see how old Stephen Tobolowsky was.
He was 44 at the time of filming
What
this.
a young man he was.
He was born in
gentleman.
1951, the same year as some other people that I know.
Oh, this is amazing. Last week's episode did not air.
Oh,
Yes, neither did this one, but also so did not last week's episode, which I can see
weird.
them being like, you know what? You know what, folks? 1995, we can't air this. You're off. Okay, so this week's episode, however, begins with
The Office. The Office is getting ready to host a retirement
that's
party.
right. Oh,
For the parting Phil, who has started in the garage with the other guys, but is currently or has recently been at Berkeley doing some beat bop boop computer stuff.
not beat
that
by
I
boot computer stuff,
don't
Emily. He
remember.
was working on an encyclopedia. So now
Right.
you younger people will not know this, but for 5 to 7 years in the 90s, they made CD-ROM encyclopedias
I
that you
remember
could
that.
purchase, and you would have a wealth of knowledge at your fingertips.
I remember that. I remember Patrick Stewart was on one where he like narrated things. And I was a young person, probably a very small child, and he gave me the creeps. And I kind of did not watch like Next Generation or any of these other kind of touchstone 90s things because Patrick Stewart gave me the creeps. Now I think he's cool, but he gave me the creeps when I was a kid. A tiny baby in utero, probably.
Probably. Okay, so we meet
So
Phil.
we meet Phil. He comes in, played by one Mr. Bob Glauberman. And my first thought was, this guy's in his 50s, right? Or this guy's in his 40s. And because he's in the business, he's, retiring young. But in the show, they say he's 26 years old or 28, something like that. Whatever. It doesn't matter. And you're like, that man is not 26 years old. The actor, in fact, was 27 years old.
Wow.
But he looked much older.
Did not look great.
Did not look like a 27-year-old computer whiz. Whatever. That's not important. The setup for the party really is just to introduce the idea that Carl is old. He's older than everybody in the office. In fact, Phil even says something like, Carl, you're still here? I thought you were dead. And that sort of encourages all the other boys, our boys that we know and love,
The guys.
to give Carl a hard time for being an old man. And this is a Stephen Tobolowsky heavy episode, which I was happy about because he is the best person in this. There are some problematic things that he does and says, although I love it when he smacks Morley. That was funny. But it really allowed him to like rise to the top. Hopefully nobody else has a heavy episode and we just get to ride on this Stephen Tobolowsky rave. So a couple funny lines in this. I think Carrie says something like, oh God, what is her line? She says something like, "Oh, I think he's still a pistol." And Carl's like, "Don't worry, ladies. I got the safety on." I thought that was kind of funny.
Mhm.
Um, oh, but what I skipped was that there was a scene for Phil's party where Vic hires some entertainment.
Yes, he does. And he says, it's Phil's party, but I got myself something.
Yes. And Andrew, I mean, I'm sure you took detailed notes. You sent me so many gifs of this woman removing her clothes. Why don't you describe it? It's like a Diamond Dave video. I mean, it's like a David Lee Roth video, right? Like
Pretty
she's got
much.
she's got big hair. It's the 90s, so she's, obviously not fully stripping down on television. She's got a teddy on, which is one of my favorite types of lingerie because nobody calls it a teddy. Um, uh, and she's dancing all over Morley. She dances all over Carl, and then Carl like passes out from old age.
Yes. Yes, he does.
And then there's a commercial break, and we cut to a hospital hallway. Another set.
Another
They
set. We have
sprung for another set for an
they
episode that they didn't
sprang for
air.
so many sets this episode. So many. And they don't reuse any of our standards other than our office. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're in the hallway and they're talking about how Carl had kidney
Kidney
stones.
stones. Yeah.
And we get a bit that will recur where Morley describes the sharpness of them going through your little pee hole, and it freaks out Core Dog. We also hear over the intercom Dr. Feldman being paged, which I thought was interesting, if not amusing, because I was wondering how that happened. Did Corey Feldman slip somebody some money?
$100. Yeah.
Yeah,
Some poor schmo
more like
writer.
a little
Oh,
bag of white powder. Uh, probably on sale from the store. Core Dogs Blow and whatever. Okay, so Blow and Smack. Core Dogs Blow and Smack. Incorporated 1984. Underwritten by Steven Spielberg and Amblin Entertainment for many a year. Hashtag enabling. Okay, so they go in and visit Tobolowsky. We get Warren coming in late and being awkward. So, continuity wise, last episode, Warren found his voice when explaining to Carrie that he was going to fantasize about her if he wanted to, and that was her damn job. And she better get with it and dress appropriately.
and
And
also bring him other women to have sex with.
yes, but they don't have any complaints. So the Noreen and Warren spinoff that wasn't. Okay. Well, Carl has on some painkillers, so he
This is where we
smacks
get the funny
Morley.
scene where he smacks Morley and says, "See, I didn't even feel anything." Oh God, that was brilliant. And then he immediately goes and ruins it by pinching Carrie on the tuchus.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, she takes it like a stand-up gal and just says,
Just
"Oh,
backs
Carl,"
away.
and backs away, but doesn't actually test the painkillers by smacking him upside the fucking head for touching her inappropriately
Nope.
without consent.
Nope.
That's okay because then he makes Warren feel uncomfortable by pulling him in for a hug, explains that he's on a lot of he explains he's on a lot of painkillers, whatever. They talk more about the kidney stones. And that's pretty much it for the hospital scene.
Yep. We
Then
then
we
is it another
go
commercial break or we
must
go to the office?
we go back to the office. It's the next day, and Carl comes in all wobbly on his feet because he's hungover. He just passed a kidney stone, which
Well, he's
I
not
understand
hungover.
is
He's been on medication.
right, but he's hungover from the medication. That's
Yes.
what, and
And that's not what I call it. I call that being like just saying, like that's just recovering. I'm not gonna.
but
I'm
also passing a kidney stone is very taxing on the body, one would assume. And So
Closest
Carrie
a
is like,
man can do to have a baby.
oh
And
yeah, there was
Carl
that
doesn't even
hilarious
know who the father is.
hilarious exchange in the hospital. That was funny too. Um, but Carrie gets on Carl's case, like, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. The doctor said you needed to recover, you needed to rest up. And he's like, I'm gonna come because all these youngsters give me a hard time for being old. And then there's some old people jokes. And oh, the B plot, terrible, is that the guys get tickets to a concert. Do you remember the name of the band? I don't.
Vomit Puppy, I believe,
Vomit Puppy.
which is
I think
incidentally where Emily met her husband.
I think the better name for a fake band Carrie comes up with accidentally. The writers should have swapped that. The writers should have swapped it. She calls it later when they're at the concert. She calls them the Puking Pooches or something. That's a much better name for a band than Vomit Puppy, whatever. That's just my opinion on the matter. There's some back at the office, there's some more jokes about Carl being old. They start working on a project where they're developing a game, Kill Everybody 2. I don't know anything about this. Andrew, you're so much older than me and so much more technologically savvy than me. This company run by Warren, what do they do?
Well, they make virtual encyclopedias. They do CGI special effects for Hollywood blockbusters, and they make shitty computer games that are popular.
So
Um,
is that something that computer companies once did? Like a little bit of everything?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
mean, Microsoft did make game, like a game for years, in addition to its other productivity software. It did have the Encarta, but as far as I know, Microsoft never did CGI effects because that is a
Yeah.
different sort of wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But they don't have Warren and Carl working for them. So
Fair
there.
enough.
Now, we get the vomit puppy thing. Is this where Carrie goes in? Yes. Carrie, so shit, no, it's
Carl, so
not.
there's a joke that is made and it's like Vic calls Carl and makes some jokes about him
That's
being
after, oh,
old.
we skipped over falling asleep. Did we skip over falling asleep?
This is before falling
No,
asleep.
it's after falling asleep. Because Carl falls asleep the day after the hospital. Falls
Right.
asleep.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So
And then
they're
we
putting the
got
finishing touches
derailed
on the
by video
game.
game history. Yeah.
Sorry. So they're working on the video game. Carl is supposed to be helping, but he falls asleep. They finish up, they make the joke. So then it's the next day?
Basically, we also have a
Okay.
thing where Carrie says she thinks Carl's vital or something, and he falls asleep again, I think. Anyway, next
Oh yeah,
day,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Vic prank calls Carl in like the worst timing I've ever seen for a bit. And Carl gets upset and storms off. Carrie sees this, goes and talks to Warren, who tells her that Carl is like the best programmer ever, and that the only reason Warren even wants to be in this business is because he gets to work with Carl. Carrie's like, Carl really needs to hear that right now. Please tell him. She scoots out as soon as she gets Carl in there. Warren is very
Hmm.
uncomfortable. He fails to convey this information, further upsetting Carl because he's back to stammering because he's not talking about how
Doing it.
objectifying Carrie is part of her job.
Yeah.
Um, and yes, so then Carl goes away sad, and then do we cut to the concert?
Then I think we cut to the concert and
Yes.
Carrie is dressed very conservatively. The guys are just dressed fairly normal. Um,
There's a lot going on with
there's a
Corey's
lot going
wild mess
on.
outfit this episode that we did not really take time to track. Also, Morley at one point appears to be wearing like a Devo suit or something. Like he's like got on
Weird.
an oversized green suit jacket at the club or something.
And Carrie gets shit for wearing some
Now
dress
we
that's
know what happened to Mary Tyler
covering her
Moore's
body.
outfit.
Oh yeah, they make that joke, and she said, "Sorry, I don't have any clothes in my apartment that have been chewed through by rats."
Yes.
As we see a bunch of punk types walking around, a lot of bare midriff, a lot of goofy haircuts, whatever. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And then enter Stephen Tobolowsky.
Carl is there. He is in a leather jacket. He's got on sunglasses, I believe, a weird shirt, and he is a wild man. He's dancing, he's having a great time, and
He tells Carrie that he might be older than everybody else in the office, but he doesn't have to act older. And so he is determined to show them that he is young and vivacious.
He's a happening dude.
He's a happening dude.
Okay. Carl then goes over. Now at this point we have like 7 minutes left of the episode. And despite the episode not going anywhere, we've been to the worst places it's gonna go in many ways. Probably always. It still feels like we're waiting for plot.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really get that. What we get is we get a young lady coming up to Carl, telling him that she likes guys who go bald naturally, as opposed to all these guys who shave their heads. Carl tells her about that, that yeah, he's got the clogged drains to prove it, that this is his hair. He tells her he's not actually there for the concert. He's there as a cultural anthropologist who wants to know what the youths are up to. Hey there, fellow kids. He's got some questions for her. What kind of music does she like? What's her favorite movie? She says, why don't we start by talking about my favorite drink when you buy me one? Grabs him by his tie and pulls him over. He's very excited by this. They order drinks. Carl is then summarily arrested for buying drinks for a minor. Now, I looked up the actress.
Yes.
Ran away from home to Hollywood at age 16. So unclear.
So she's skilled at doing this then.
So it's very interesting because I was like, where's this? Is this going to go somewhere with Carl and this lady? Good thing it didn't, because Stephen Tobolowsky, we learned earlier, is 44 or whatever, 41, something. And so everybody's surprised Carl's been arrested. We then cut to the jail. Carrie and Warren approach the cell, concerned for Carl, assuming that he will be in great plight, having been incarcerated at the drunk tank, basically, at the Seattle Police Department.
Oh, but there's a funny scene where there's like the mug shots when you come back from commercial.
Oh, that's right, the mugshot. The mugshot. Nice mug
that was cute. Right.
Yeah. So, but yes, so in jail, Carl is plugged into the phone with a laptop.
And it's a payphone, kids, that used to be everywhere.
Yep. Got a reversed phone setup thing. Looks very much like I don't know, War Games or something. So we find out that he got the laptop because he's working on the guard's pension, getting the guard's pension squared away.
I don't know what that means. Is he stealing money? Is he making better investments?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing Carl's doing here seems particularly legal. Or legally minded.
But it's for the police, Andrew. They would never encourage him to do something bad just to benefit themselves, would they? They're the police.
How dark do you want me to get with my comeback to this?
We could just move on. We can just move on.
Okay. So Carrie calls Carl over. They have a heart-to-heart about his midlife crisis.
Mm-hmm.
She makes some observations about how he doesn't need to worry about his age because Warren doesn't care about that or something. To which Warren says, no, Carrie, you're wrong. You're wrong about everything you said. Here's the deal. I only work with the best. And I work with Carl because he's the best. Carl's the best programmer when he was a kid. He's the best programmer now, and he'll be the best programmer till he retires. And when Carl's out of the game, I'm out of the game.
Very sweet.
Carrie, Carrie is very happy. She's spent a lot of time this episode trying to get Warren to be more sociable, forcing him to in many instances. And yes, and Carl is like, wow, thanks, Warren. And Warren goes, I wasn't talking to you, Carl. I was talking to Carrie. And then he leaves. But they know that we've conveyed Carl's value.
That's very nice.
Very nice. So we then
So
oh,
so then this is where I get a little bit confused
okay.
because he bought drinks for a minor.
Yes.
And yet they show up. There's no discussion about court dates. There's no discussion about bail money. There's no discussion about any. I assume that whatever bail is being set is being paid for because Warren is wealthy. Carl is a great programmer, probably makes a lot of money. Like, I'm sure the bail is not an issue, but there's like seemingly no concern about jail time, court, getting a
Oh, I
lawyer.
don't think he's out on bail. I think charges have been dismissed.
Oh, well, there's no discussion of that either.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't go anywhere.
No.
But before he leaves, he gets back on his computer and there's, a bunch of other ne'er-do-wells in the jail cell with him. And he gets rid of these parking tickets for this guy and does some other things. And then, hey, Hesse, raise your hand. You are now an American citizen. Like, he's doing all of these things on the computer by hacking, which I don't know if hacking and programming are like a similar skill set. I don't think so. But maybe he's a skilled hacker as well. It's very confusing.
You need to watch Hackers again.
I do. I love Johnny Lee Miller.
Okay. So then they leave, and Stephen Tobolowsky's like, wait a second, Carrie, one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
Whisper, whisper. And can you do me a favor? And as she agrees, and as they leave, she rubs his back and says, come on, big boy, let's go, or something like that, which impresses all of Carl's new jail cell friends.
And pats him on the butt, too.
On the tush.
The end.
The end.
Yay.
Such
I
a
thought
weird
it was a weird episode. I'm surprised that this one didn't air.
It's probably the second or third best, easy, just because it ain't hard, but yeah.
Ooh, next episode we have a special guest star.
We do have a special guest star. Next episode is the Bad PR Show. And our special guest star, do we want to spoil it?
Yeah, let's fucking spoil it.
It's Wendy Malick, who has gone on to much greater things than guest starring on Dweebs.
Like being on Just Shoot Me.
She's on Just Shoot Me. She's currently on Shrinking, where she gets to bang Harrison Ford.
Ooh.
Yeah, there you go. And various other things. Hot in Cleveland is probably a good show. I don't know, but
I don't know either.
It's a bunch of experienced sitcom vets with experienced sitcom. Well, I mean, everybody's got experience. It was like a cable sitcom, but made with pedigree. Anyway, probably fine. Golden Girls 2020.
Yeah, I liked her in Just Shoot Me. She was very fun.
Yep.
Not as good as Christine Baranski, who's got a similar vibe going, but whatever.
Yes.
Well, that's very exciting. Thank you for listening, folks. Thank you for watching, Andrew. I know you gave me a hard time about it, but this is really one of the better episodes. Despite, people hiring a stripper to come to work and strip.
But it's okay because you notice that all of the women in the office who don't get lines because fuck them SAG cards, they were all really into it.
They were all really into it.
Very, very ecstatic that Vic.
Well, they were waiting for David Lee Roth to come in.
Okay.
So then they could take their clothes off too.
Well,
that's a cut scene. We had Carl, the best character on the show, easily getting a little handsy and encouraging Carrie to get a little handsy. There was a little bit of homophobia from Warren, but other than that, this is one of the better shows of this season. Thank you all for listening to us. We'll see you next week when we watch episode 9, The Bad PR Show. Andrew, I'll see you in television land.
See you in television land.